Turn on the TV and you're bound to see ads about problems with pelvic mesh. Doctors implant mesh to help women with issues such as urinary incontinence. For many, mesh works well, but that was not the case for the woman you're about to meet. For her, mesh meant debilitating pain. She found answers and the care she needed at the Mayo Clinic.
To Deborah Mendelson, exercise is a key part of health and happiness.
And I've even been doing a little jogging and walking, so that's what I love.
Like many women who have children, Deb developed stress, urinary incontinence, and pelvic organ prolapse.
So if I coughed or sneezed, I'd have to, wherever I was, I'd have to go home and change, and it was really inconvenienced.
Very common. So she opted to have doctors in her hometown implant pelvic mesh for both her incontinence and prolapse. It worked for several years.
And then I developed another prolapse, so I went back to my surgeon, who did further mesh surgery.
For a while, that worked too. Then the pain began.
A scale of 1 to 10 of the pain, my pain was probably at about 11 prior to the surgery. I was extremely distressed, and to be honest, I didn't feel my life was worth living. I had no quality of life at all.
Deborah's search for help led her to Mayo Clinic and urogynecologist Dr. John Gebhardt. He says the most common problems with mesh implants are erosions or extrusions, meaning the mesh starts to poke through tissue and skin.
Could lead to bleeding, irritation, discharge, maybe complaints with intercourse.
Here's what happens. Pelvic mesh is implanted to bolster organs, to give them support. Over time, the body grows in and around the mesh, and this holds the mesh in place. In some cases, the mesh contracts and begins to move, causing potentially serious symptoms. Surgery to take out embedded mesh can be very complicated and difficult.
We removed a significant majority of the mesh that was placed for her. We didn't remove it all because some areas weren't an issue.
Deborah has had 2 surgeries to remove the mesh. Some is still there, but she feels worlds better.
Absolutely fantastic.
Now she's back on track.
I have got back into physical activity, which is great.
Back into life. For the Mayo Clinic News Network, I'm Vivian Williams.
Again, because the body grows in and around the mesh, it can be very tough to remove. Dr. Gebhardt says mesh does help women with issues such as stress urinary incontinence or bladder and urinary prolapse, but it's not risk-free.
And now for a recap of the headlines. Speaker of the House of Assembly, Honorable Ingrid Moses, calls for respect to be restored to the legislative body. VIP leadership dispute delays appointment of an opposition leader. Residents share their expectations of the NDP's second term in office. And Education Minister Honorable Myron Walwyn calls for electoral reform. In news from around the region, worst drought in 5 years spells trouble for some Caribbean countries. And ECTEL to address impact of cable and wireless flow merger on consumers. Remember to visit jtvlive.net for JTV News stories featured in this newscast, news updates, government and community events, and other television programs. Thank you so much for viewing this newscast. I am Sean Rose.